So welcome everybody to another ELF conversation. Optimizing your cloud strategy and the cultural dimension is what we're going to be talking about today. And on to the next slide, please. I'm your host, and I will be, sort of making sure that this goes smoothly. And moving on to the next slide, please, Coco. So the idea of the Enterprise Leadership Forum is designed for knowledge sharing by and for our global community. And DevOps practitioners, thought leaders and industry experts that can share how they solve specific problems in their organizations and stimulate ideas for the future. On to the next, please. So just a brief on the agenda. We're just giving an introduction to DASA, and then we'll talk a little bit about membership, community and talent with Helen Parker, who's our membership director. And then I will introduce the speakers and hand over to Irfan Sharif, who will be facilitating the conversation, and then we'll wrap up with some questions and a poll for future events, because we want to hear from you. But also we want to make sure that questions, happen as we go along. So please, we want to hear everybody contribute to this topic. It's not just about the speakers speaking. It is about, hearing from other leaders within the community. On to the next slide, please. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Please keep your microphone on mute. And if you would like to speak or contribute during the webinar, raise your hand. There is a hand sign at the bottom, reactions. And otherwise, just put your name in the chat or ask a question if you don't want to speak. And we will ask the question ourselves. And please, announce your name and company so we know who you are and where you're coming from. So the idea is to make it as interactive as possible, and your opinions do matter. And as I mentioned earlier, there will be a poll at the end when we close the discussion, and it's very important to have your feedback for future conversations and topics, and even if you would like to contribute as a speaker, we would love to hear from you. This webinar will be recorded and shared with a wider audience online. On to the next, please. So just a little bit about DASA. DASA is the world's largest DevOps and Agile association, fostering dialogue, debate, and collaboration amongst leading industry professionals and organizations. It's a network of 300 plus partner organizations, and DASA helps define, inform, and advance the DevOps industry through networking, information sharing, awards, lifelong learning, and certification. It was founded in 2016 with 300 plus partners across 48 countries with over 1,000 professionals who are part of this community. On to the next, please. So DASA offers the guidance, platforms, and community of experts to enable you to successfully navigate your transformation journey. On to the next. Oh, sorry, previously, can you, just return to the previous slide. So I'm going to hand over to Helen Parker, who is the membership director at DASA, and just to explain a little bit more about the DASA community and information about the Talent Academy and so forth. So Helen, just over to you.
You took my glory there.
I did, I'm so sorry.
No, look, I'll keep it really brief. Look, thank you, first of all, for inviting me to join another ELF event. It's always fantastic to host these events every month. And as Katrina mentioned, DASA's goal is to define, inform, and advance the DevOps industry. And we do this through networking, information sharing, awards, continuous learning, certification. There's a whole gamut of things that we offer. So we pride ourselves in facilitating discussion for sharing ideas and best practices, And today is another great example of that. So today we're looking at optimizing your cloud strategy through cultural dimension. This looks at how focusing on technology alone will not deliver success, innovation or value for that matter. It will only deliver new technologies and infrastructure, but not necessarily business outcomes. So I'm not going to take anyone else's glory, but this is such an important discussion. In fact, Intervision and Pulse conducted a survey on this last year with some interesting results. So whilst most companies have moved their infrastructure to cloud, many have stalled or experienced delays primarily due to unanticipated skill gaps. This in turn impacts on the cost objectives. And some of the contributing factors included, number one, personnel simply didn't have time to focus on additional aspects of the implementation. They don't have the training or skills required, nor was the governance in place. So what are lessons that people have learned? So the wonderful part about community platforms like DASA is that they offer the guidance and advice based on co-creation and shared experiences. It's so important. So we want to invite you to join the ELF community each month to discuss these complex but relevant topics. Besides the monthly ELF events, similar to the one today, we also tap into the collective intelligence and experiences of other leaders around the globe and exchange ideas and practical guidance. So we invite you to also utilize the various resources, such as the recordings, the white papers, the webinars, the publications on our website and the member section as well. So if you have any questions on how to be involved in the DASA membership and community, do not hesitate to ask. And Katrina, I hand it back to you.
Thank you very much, Helen. That was great. So yeah, as Helen mentioned, we do want to hear from you. And if you have any ideas that we can share in relation to challenges or successes, we would love to hear from you. And we will, as I mentioned, have a poll at the end with suggested topics for the ELF. So I'm going to introduce the speakers now for today's topic on cloud solutions, and Gaston Lopez, who is Global Head of Platform Engineering at Scotiabank, and is very much, has experience related to, being many years as a tech leader with comprehensive operations, support services, and project management experience. So welcome, Gaston, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, a pleasure to be here.
And then we have Juan Ignacio Cordona, who is my neighbor, and he is Director of Cloud and System Engineering at Deloitte, and is Director of Consulting Technology Services and responsible for the cloud end of Deloitte Spain Mobile Center for Excellence. So Juan, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity of being here.
And then we will be having Samuel Byrne, who is currently stuck in Tel Aviv traffic, but he should be joining us soon. And he is Global Director and Partner and Customer Success at Cloud Health VMware, which is a leading multi-cloud management and security solution that was acquired by VMware. And Irfan, who will be facilitating this discussion, who is Research Director at DASA and technology, also is involved in many years in technology, and also Agile and DevOps trainer. So Irfan, I'm going to hand over the microphone to you.
All right, super. Thank you. Thank you, Katrina. And thanks, Helen, for that sort of context setting. I think it helps frame this conversation as well. And Helen briefly mentioned about how taking just a technology-centric view will not get the results. There's a people and a cultural element and a dimension to all these technology-driven changes that have to be considered. And that is the topic for today's discussion. And I'm glad to have a panel of experts to discuss that topic. Gaston I've known him. He brings, as he explained earlier, he has seen the evolution of technology from rack and stacking to consuming technology and services through the cloud. And we have one who brings in from a perspective from the consulting industry. And I'm sure there's a lot of experiences you have with different customers that you can bring to the table here. We will hopefully have Samuel, and he will provide a perspective from software service or a vendor perspective as well. So we have diverse perspectives, and this should be a fun discussion, folks. So just to frame the conversation, this is how we hope to have this. One is we'll just do a quick roundtable, maybe an icebreaker of sorts, where the speakers will address what their sort of what they see as the biggest opportunity with the cloud is, and what the biggest challenge to achieving that objective is. And we'll do that to get started. But in terms of the broad themes that we'll cover in this conversation are the following. We'll start with the architecture and technology sort of discussion and the transformation that is happening, and tie it into the people and the cultural elements that the transformation, the sort of application transformation or the technology transformation, and the accompanying people and cultural transformation, which is the second broad theme. And then the third theme is around the DevOps way of working as small autonomous teams, delivering iteratively, and fast flow of work and feedback from operations back to development and design. So that is the broad format for today's discussion. And with that, Professor, I would invite Gaston to say a few words about what he thinks about the biggest opportunity in the cloud, and what he sees as the biggest challenge to achieving that. And then we'll move on to one.
So thank you, dear friend. So yeah, I have been the evolution of technology from, I might be looking younger than actually what I am. So actually, you raise a couple of good points, right? So what are the best? So I will try to move a little bit beyond the cliches, right? Like security, endless capacity through elasticity. I would like to see that in the enterprise, most of the organizations already have tried or attempt some sort of migration to the cloud. So I will have that assumption in some of my comments. So the first thing I want to say is, when move to the cloud or migrate to the cloud is no longer, it is an ongoing thing. Now is the time to see what is beyond that, right? If you have 100 servers, again, I will oversimplify things, and you already migrated 30, and you are looking at, kind of lift and shift or rehost type of environment, and you think that the only thing left for you is the other 70 servers, you're missing a great opportunity, not on the 30 that you already migrated, but also utilizing learning experiences that you got during those 30, right? Like you're getting more proficient, you are learning on the experience. So for me, the best opportunity is capitalize the learning experience, and not in tandem, but as a parallel stream, look at what can be done as a quick change of what was planned maybe 1 year ago. So that for me is kind of where the biggest opportunities lays, and we can expand later on in why this is so important, right?
Yeah, and just to summarize there, it's kind of the opportunity is to learn as we go along and treat it as a sort of a journey and a step in the process, and not miss the big opportunities there. Okay.
Right. No, the tandem is the killer in here, right? So you planned something a year ago, and you think that you are done, and you need to progress, and you think that until you don't complete whatever was planned, you cannot innovate, you cannot change, you cannot be flexible. And I think that in the enterprise, that sometimes is the way of thinking. But if you find the space to find these lessons learned as you go, and keep even in a small increments, improving and optimizing what you have planned, I think that there is a great opportunity to do things better.
All right, and that I guess is the challenge as well, is getting that shift in sort of the incremental thinking and taking up the advantage of opportunities as you go along this journey, and not waiting till the very end to actually try to capitalize on them. Thank you. I think that's a great perspective, Gaston. Appreciate that. And perhaps Juan, from your experience, having dealt with a lot of customers, and maybe you can distill it for us in terms of what you see as an opportunity there, as well as some of the big challenges or challenge number one you see.
Okay, so just in terms of opportunities, so the approach we did with our clients, we have two different kind of discussions. One discussion is with the business departments, and the other one is technical departments, and the challenges are quite different depending with you are talking about. So when we try to face all the discussions when in the business part, because all the discussion we have with the technology, all the advantages they may get are in terms of scalability, agility, just make things faster. And the cost is not is the 5 reason for migrating to the cloud. Is the first one is in terms of more close to agility and scalability, but all those topics are more technology advantages, but not business advantages. So the discussion with of the opportunity of migrating to the cloud is that we are telling the clients, okay, what's happening if you don't migrate to the cloud, because your competitors are about to migrate to the cloud, so they are going to innovate faster, to provide to go to the market faster, and probably deliver better services. So in case you don't migrate to the cloud, you are in a disadvantaged position against your competitors. So yes, probably looks like or sounds a bit negative, but okay, it's a matter of fact. So yes, it's not an option to do not migrate to the cloud, but it's just a must-have. Otherwise, you are in very bad business position. So this is the first thing. In terms of opportunities, or in terms of what the companies are doing, so we have the other discussion. So we have some clients that the business are open to migrate to the cloud, and they are willing or asking to migrate to the cloud because they see new operating model, new business, new way of doing things. And in several organizations, the showstopper are the IT departments, because they lack the proper people. They don't want to evolve internally. They think there are some danger in terms of keeping their jobs. So the IT departments probably is the biggest showstopper in terms of cloud migration right now.
Yeah.
So Irfan, I would like to comment on a good point that Juan mentioned.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Which has to do with ask the right questions, right? So each stakeholder might have a different reason why and again, I will use migration to the cloud or start utilizing the cloud. So probably, and I will share a little story with you. I used to have a C-level boss many years ago that read in a magazine that, by 2020, everyone will be in the cloud, right? At the time. We are in 2022, and still larger organizations are moving or migrating to the cloud. And that brings to the concept that the cloud is not a destination, but it's like, it's basically a way of thinking, right? It's not like I migrate to the cloud and I'm done, right? But you touch another very interesting point, which is you need to ask the reasons to try to understand what is the best way, right? So if you go to finances, which definitely is the one who will enable the cloud, they might not consider the cloud as a strategic point, right? Maybe moving the whole organization from a CapEx model that is very easy to break down per year to an OpEx model is extremely hard. You talk to... Sorry, I don't know.
Can you please put yourself on mute if you're not on mute, other than the speakers?
Yeah, so Juan, the other issue is IT, right? So IT definitely might have a leadership wish to move to the cloud, and they might be scared because they don't know exactly what it is, or they feel that some of their jobs will move away. And then you're talking to the executive levels, which they have these dreams, and you will ask why. And sometimes these are arbitrary decisions, right? So it's extremely important to talk to all the different stakeholders and consolidate the reasons why the cloud is needed. And again, I know that this is about cloud. There are use cases where even the cloud is not necessarily bring any advantage at any time, right? So extremely important to understand the why. To support your point, Juan, you are a consultant, so you know that very much better than I do.
It's a good point. Yeah, I think so. So to distill it, then Gaston, is we have to have a sort of a discussion around the purpose and gravitate towards having one sort of overall the why of this transformation, which and it has like Juan mentioned, there are different perspectives, both from even within the technology departments as well as the business, right? One is focused on the opportunity they see, and in terms of operating models being changing, and the technology focus might be something a little different. So I think having that common purpose and the why would ground everybody on that transformation. And at this time, I think we have Samuel joining. Hey, Sam. Maybe we were just doing a quick round of sort of an icebreaker sort of thing. We just were going around with Gaston and Juan. I mean, just to get a perspective of from their perspective, what they see as the sort of biggest opportunity for cloud-led transformation, and what they see as the biggest challenge. Maybe if you can offer your perspective very quickly, that'll be helpful, and then we'll dive into some of the themes we talked about earlier. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, apologies for being late, but really happy to be here and looking forward to the conversation. Yeah, I think, when it comes to some of the biggest opportunities, at least from what I've seen, scalability is one of the first things that comes to mind. You think kind of, prior to the evolution of cloud, being able to go from, not having a production application to getting something out in front of customers, that could be a multi-year process. In today's world, with being able to provision an application in the cloud, to be able to spin up an instance or a VM, the amount of time to value decreases significantly. And that's something that I think we've seen, that I've seen with customers has been a massive value proposition. The other thing is just agility. Like we're in a world where things are changing so much and so quickly, that having the capability to change and to decide, maybe I'm going to start by migrating to the cloud, and then I'm going to start by, using IaaS at first, and then all of a sudden getting a little bit more familiar with PaaS and SaaS and all the various offerings that you have. The agility to move, to scale up and down, to automate that within the cloud is just a significant competitive advantage, and it's really what is putting the capabilities of these modern applications in the hands of customers. So I think that's one of the promises of cloud. One of the challenges is there's this whole promise of you move to cloud, you have this agility, this scalability. You have these cost benefits that you get from that as well. You're moving from paying everything up front to being able to pay on demand. And then all of a sudden you get your first bill and you go, I have no idea why this is as high as it is. And that can be frightening and challenging. And then you have to go and defend that to somebody. So that can be a challenge. And I think that in order to put guardrails up around that, what we see is that visibility into what you're using in the cloud is critically important. It's really the first step in maturing in the cloud. And really following that, you start to have the ability to optimize. And that's, I think, where companies can really take the cloud and kind of take themselves through their cloud journey to go from facing those initial challenges, facing the hurdles of getting there, getting that visibility, and then being able to start moving into things like optimization, putting governance around how they're consuming cloud, and ultimately being able to, to integrate across, all the various ways that they're leveraging the cloud.
Yeah, And it's right on, Sam. I think what you touched upon in terms of the promise of the cloud, in terms of time to value, in terms of reducing a multi-year sort of process to perhaps days and weeks and maybe minutes in terms of deployments, and the associated challenge, which might not be technology itself, but just understanding the financials of this migration to cloud when the model shifts from capex to opex, and as well as the visibility into what's going on, and the governance model around it that needs to change and adapt to support the sort of big benefits in terms of time to value, and the big opportunity to do, if done intelligently, to drive down costs. So I think it's a good sort of segue to one of the first theme we wanted to talk about, right? And some of this is in terms of the architecture and the technology sort of transformation and how it informs some of the things that will come as part of it in terms of either constraints or in terms of opportunities for doing it really well. So we just want to touch on that theme broadly and then tie it to the people and the cultural transformation aspect. And you touched upon things like it's just not people who are at the sort of level of who actually do hands on the keyboard sort of people, but people who are doing the governance, who are funding these projects. There is a sort of transformation and a skilling that is required at that level. So maybe we can start with that sort of conversation around the different approaches to cloud, and every customer is unique. Every sort of application profile might be unique. So it can go from anything from lift and shift to actually doing a cloud native sort of thing and taking full advantages of the thing. But the transition to getting there is a long process, as Gaston likes to say. It's not a destination, it's a journey. So that having the ability to stick to that journey, for the long haul is important. So maybe I'll pass it on to Gaston to talk a little bit about this different approaches and what are the sort of constraints and opportunities they bring with that, and where kind of we need to evolve from a technology perspective in terms of design and architecture to support the sort of benefits the cloud will offer and align it so that the people and the cultural transformation can happen. And then we can actually have teams that can be like the sort of holy grail of cloud computing and DevOps, of small autonomous teams working independently to, iteratively deliver business value through code. So maybe we can, because the technology, the constraints, it sort of enables it. Maybe perhaps Gaston, you can talk a little bit about from lift and shift to cloud native.
Sure. So lift and shift of rehost is what I guess is the first step of many organizations when they want to, sense the waters in the cloud, either because they're curious or because their boss told them by this year we need to be something in the cloud, right? As that was a real strategic advantage. The problem with that approach is that you are utilizing something that has so many abstractions that you can leverage, and you're basically using the cloud as you say, Irfan, as another data center, right? You just resolve little connectivity issues here and there, but you still leverage heavily on your traditional processes, the same type of skill set that is required. So lift and shift, I see that for experimentation point of view is a good approach. Definitely is not something that is sustainable, cost associated by compute that probably you will be running it 24/7, and the only way that you can get discounts at the financial level is by reservations, right? So definitely it doesn't get you there. A perfect opportunity if there is no option for retire the application, right? Or to replace either by rebuilding it or by another service, will be refactoring. The problem with refactoring is very expensive. It will require expertise, trying to leverage as much as possible, cloud native solutions or services that are available to you. So that basically will be kind of, it's like a quantic jump from, using infrastructure as a service as a part of lift and shift. What is something that I think is part of the evolution, or even if the organizations have the opportunity, will be replatform. So replatform is the best bang for the buck. You probably will be leveraging infrastructure as a service, maybe if you're lucky, you can rely on some of the platform as a services or PaaS services. You might not need to worry about maybe storage, because you can leverage cloud storage. If you don't have a strong posture in terms of security in the cloud, you might be leveraging some of the built-in services, so you don't need to get into learning new technologies, or even if you don't like it later on, you can do it. So I think that re-platform is what things need to happen. And Irfan, when I was talking about migrations, right? Like I have these 100 VMs, I migrate 30. Now I think that when I'm having the rest, the other 70 in the cloud, I'm done. That's the perfect opportunity for a re-platform analysis, right? Without going all into cloud native, which definitely it is part of the evolution. This is where you will get the better optimization. You will be working workloads on demand. When they are not required, they will not be running. You can even use serverless, which is something that even comes on top of what's going to be infrastructure as a service, or even platform as a service, or even SaaS, right? You just pay for what you consume. So the key element in here, and I think is very important, is to have a clear strategy that cloud will be the first option for new environments. So if you say cloud first, and if not, you have a very compelling reason why cloud cannot be an option. I think that a lot of the discussions around, I don't feel comfortable in the cloud, or I don't know enough, or it might be too expensive. Having that discussion, or why not, and have all the proper stakeholders is critical, because you don't see something on hands-on bringing it from the technical point of view to the cloud. You see this as something that might be there for 5 years, right? So you need to see if it's better to invest now or not in the beginning. The other big abstraction is SaaS, if possible, if not PaaS, and your last type of option, infrastructure as a service. If you have that very clear, that cloud first, and within the cloud you prefer SaaS over PaaS and PaaS over AS, I think that you start narrowing down some of the decisions, and then you start working into the details from the financial point of view, from the vision, from the technical point of view. But I think that clarity from the strategy needs to be set up front. Otherwise, cloud is another buzzword, and you might get into some very inconvenient problems that you didn't foresee.
Yeah, and good points, Gaston. And I would like to sort of see how we can tie it to the people and the cultural aspects of each of these approaches, right? That we can go from a lift and shift, where the amount of change is not that much from maybe a people and a way of working perspective, and then we transform to the replatforming, and finally having a cloud first mindset, right? And maybe Juan can touch upon that in terms of how to evolve the people sort of readiness and the cultural sort of and the mindset and behaviors to support a cloud first sort of approach for greenfield sort of development, and the heavy lifting that is required to address legacy applications and move them to the cloud. And because that's a longer and a tougher journey in terms of evolving from IaaS to PaaS or serverless, right? So that's a different thing. But a lot of people have a lot of legacy application and a footprint, right? So maybe one from your perspective and from the consulting sort of views that you have, and you touched upon some interesting point of the business view and the technology view. Maybe you can speak a little bit about the people and the cultural dimension to this technology conversation.
I fully agree what Gaston mentioned. So yes, when you started your cloud journey, so you would like to make it very fast to have either make a lift and shift, or even rehost or replatform, just to get the more advantages you may get without break too many things. And the clients, so just you get either of those options, you get some of the cloud advantages. But if you would like to get the full advantages of the cloud, you need to just start thinking in using either SaaS, serverless, or in some cases containers. And this is the hot topics we are discussing with our clients right now. It's about, okay, I'm not going to, if I would like to move very fast to the cloud, just move everything, shift and leave, that's fine. But when they start thinking of just on the long term, just creating new applications, or what is the cloud strategy on the long term? So this is the hot topic right now, at least in our clients. Okay, should we rely on all the SaaS or all the SaaS functionalities the cloud vendors provide us? But that means that we will have some sort of vendor lock-in, and we get married with either AWS, Azure, or Google, or yes, we need to define a multi-cloud or multi-vendor approach or strategy. That means that either you rely on PaaS or on containers. That's the where the clients are right now. So most of the clients are okay. So they need to, or they should choose either of those two options, either full serverless, full cloud functionality with all the advantages and disadvantages, or even go with the containers. So that have an implication on which vendor you will choose, and also as you mentioned before, if which kind of people or skills you need for the transformation. So from the IT point of view, they are quite willing in using containers in order to protect the inversion in talent, and probably they may have some talent already in the organization that they may reuse in the cloud journey to cloud, because it is more or less just still running containers on the cloud, and also even the DevOps pipelines, they may reuse them in order to automate everything on cloud. So that's the options that our clients are facing right now in this point of time.
Yeah, and maybe Sam, you bring a perspective from having seen this both with Cloud Health and their sort of perspective in terms of time to value and cost and making things visible. Right, one of the challenges I think is there is the technology piece and containers and serverless and all this are there, but unless the sort of the teams and the ways of working are defined, the technology itself will not deliver the results, right? So. And from your sort of perspective, maybe if you can help talk about the people and the cultural aspects of the transformation in terms of where IaaS might involve a minor change in the mindsets of where you're working versus when you go to fully containers and serverless, where you have small autonomous team responsible for delivering a feature set or delivering a piece of value for the business. So that changes quite dramatically, both from a waterfall sort of development method, as well as from an operation side, from a data center to a cloud always on sort of model, right?
Yeah, so one of the things is that cloud is changing in terms of culture and how the IT departments are working right now. It's the empowerment of development teams. So right now with the cloud, especially with serverless and containers, everything is development. So we are giving the power and responsibility to the development teams to do almost everything. So they don't need anymore the platform guys or the sysadmin guy, even the DBA, because they have all the rights, all the access, and all the tools for be autonomous. So it's just this is a change of the culture, the IT culture in general, that everybody should be a developer in order to be involved in the journey to cloud.
Yes and no. Yes and no, Juan.
Okay.
I think that you empower all the teams. It's not one team. So you empower, and that's where DevOps and even DevSecOps, you empower operations to be able to move a little bit to understand what the developers are doing. The developers are being empowered because now they can create infrastructure on demand. Yes, security needs to be involved, which in the previous iterations of IT, security was an afterthought. They need to secure something that was already built. Now it's baked in the beginning. You have governance and controls also from day one, which are all part of the team. And also, regardless of who is your reporting structure, all these teams are organic. They build and they're being destroyed as is needed. So it really doesn't matter if your boss is a developer and my boss is an operations person and your boss is the CISO of the company. During that time, during that project, during that kickoff of we all belong to the same team. And that's kind of what I believe is the beauty of, not particularly because of cloud. Cloud enables these organic and more dynamic creations, which in a traditional, you have kind of your own flag and you just try to throw the potato over the fence to the next team when it's required. So I think it's not just the developers. I think it's a true cultural mind shift thing that is happening, and the cloud is enabled to do that in a faster pace.
Yes, but some of the comments you made, it's okay, security should be involved from the day one, as it's supposed to be in the past as well. So now the cloud make it easier in order to make those things happen. And also the DevSecOps approach just show everybody that it's very important to have security involved for the beginning of any project. So my point is just the ops guys are losing weight on the organization and also on the responsibilities, and okay, the dev or development is just getting more functionalities or more responsibilities on the transformation.
If I might,
I disagree. I disagree with that. Sorry,
I think there's a happy path. I think there's just different perspectives. I believe what you're saying, I agree with the perspectives both of you have. One is in terms of what you're saying, Gaston, in terms of a cross-functional sort of teams, organic teams, which bring perspectives from different areas like operations and security into the organic team, the autonomous team, the DevOps team, which has end-to-end responsibilities, right? That is one aspect of it. And what maybe perhaps one is referring to is the need for operations to evolve from managing physical assets to actually managing infrastructure to code, which is kind of what you become a developer in effect.
Infrastructure as code, pipelines, like my point is evolution happens in both directions, and it's not that one is going to replace the other one, but actually you're expanding the realm of responsibilities and the know-how. All my team builds everything as code. You don't click next to build infrastructure. And we work closer to the developers because the developers are aspects of development like capacity, IOPS, CPU. They don't care. They just want their code to be fast on production. So I think that collaboration is the word instead of one team is winning over the other one. I think that is not a competition.
Exactly. And you hit a good point, Gaston. If I just may dwell on it a little bit, it's kind of the expansion of responsibilities, right? And that's also a cultural and a mindset shift. Like people, even from a developer community, the developers were responsible for code, they hand it over to QA and they test it. Versus now you own the code and you own the operations of the code as well. Right? That's a big cultural transformation.
Yes, and also just to complete the whole picture. So we are thinking about what is happening inside the IT department with DevOps. So we should also include the business or the internal client on this flow. So just completed with agile vision of complete DevOps with agile vision, just to have the business department or the business owner involved in all this process. That is it's key for us. Was how the most successful projects we have done.
We forecasted, if you don't think they're going to make April 15th. And Prasad.
Very good. And I think maybe, Sam, your perspective on that, I think you touched upon some of this earlier in terms of the governance aspect of it, right? And the time to value, I think from a business perspective that they see, and the evolution of new operating models. If you can share some of your thoughts, Sam, in terms of a business view and how these cultural things or transformation, both technology and culturally, needs to happen to enable that business value.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, first off, the evolution of cloud has put a lot of power into the hands of users, right? And I think that's really what kind of you were driving at. And I think one of the things that we've seen is, I mentioned in the concept or the construct of this cloud maturity model, when you move to the cloud, one of the first things that you need is visibility. And then one of the second things that you're going to try to do once you have that visibility into how much you're spending, what you're consuming, how it's performing, et cetera, is you're going to try to optimize it. You're going to look to find cost savings. You're going to look to find performance advantages, et cetera. One of the concepts that we've seen start to really take over is this idea of FinOps, this kind of new role, these new teams that are existing within companies that kind of bridge the gap between the business and the operation. And they really live within that space of visibility and optimization and understanding, what are the financial vehicles we have in play here to ensure that everything that we're able to put out there to a customer makes sense through the lens of our business, while also trying not to put too many guardrails up around, the users and the DevOps teams. As you progress through that model, what we also see as we go into more of the governance realm is this additional construct of a cloud center of excellence, a CCOE, where, across different business units and lines of business within a company, we can see the need for some sort of consistency and the need for some sort of shared vision as to how we're going to use cloud, whether that's public cloud, hybrid cloud, multi-cloud approach, et cetera. So I think that the combination of those two things from a business standpoint, FinOps and a cloud center of excellence, is really ways that the industry is changing and that businesses are changing to adjust to the change and the power that the cloud provides.
Thank you.
The point of the cost is a very good point, because one of the things that cloud bring us is total transparency of cost, that it didn't happen before on-premise stuff. So the IT departments acquire one cluster, hardware, iron, whatever you want to name it. And this cost is completely hidden to the business, or it's very difficult to assign what is your piece of the cost to the department, or what your workload costs this amount, this amount, this amount. With cloud, all those costs appear, and and all the costs are in the table, and it's very easy to assign those costs to each different department and each different workload. And this is one of the topics that why the business may think that the cloud is expensive, because now they are paying the real IT costs they had in the past, but nobody knows. And I don't know if Sam agree with this, or it's more or less they have the same idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thought. I think, historically, the financial model for cloud was very traditional in that it was, here's your capital expenses, any sort of operating expenses, and then let's say you're selling widgets, let's just add all those up and then divide it by the number of widgets, and that's your cost of goods sold. What we're seeing now is really the capability with the different functionalities that the cloud providers provide to get a much more granular sense of, like, for each of the various applications we have, for each of the various widgets, let's say, we're bringing to market, what specifically is our cost? What is our profit model? How do we combine those two things together and get a much better understanding financially of what is the amount of money we're making on an application, on a user, on the various business metrics that we have, depending on what it is that we're bringing to market. And I think that what cloud has done is provided way more visibility than we've had in the past on that, and at a much more granular level. And that's really where that FinOps concept comes in, because now you have finance coming in and saying, hey, how do we drive down that cost? How do we improve our profit margins?
So comment on that. So definitely FinOps is the way to do, and it's an engineering approach to ensure that the cost is assessed during the beginning. And you will have people with a head of finance on the engineering side, and you will have people in finance that will understand OpEx. One observation perhaps is that in a more traditional data center, even though you have technologies in the past that can tell you, CPU and consumption and memory, and you have ways to optimize, since it was based on a CapEx model, it really doesn't matter, because the money has been allocated and you need to make sure that for the next 3 years you pay. So shutting down, optimizing from the financial point of view has no meaning in the big picture. Now, since the cloud providers are charging you by the minute, and there are many opportunities right through the different tools built in, and even there are many better tools that will provide efficiencies over time and even provide recommendations to save some money, is when it becomes extremely critical. I think the most critical point. But it's not that the technology was not there before. It's just that I bring to a person who pays from a cost center something for 3 years. He will not care even to look at that. Now, when you are doing chargeback, and the chargeback can be done weekly, monthly, whatever your appetite is, everyone will have the best intention to save some money. So here's perhaps the hook for it.
Yeah. And on that note, I think we are heading to the top of the hour here, folks. And just wanted to pause and see if there were questions from the audience. No, Katrina, Helen,
any questions? Well, I mean, I've got a question. What's the difference between hybrid cloud and hybrid IT?
Hybrid, I can tell you what hybrid cloud is. Hybrid cloud is when you decide the best location for some of the workloads in between public cloud, private cloud, and even your traditional data center. For instance, if you have a dependency on an application that is latency dependent, needs to be very quick, maybe you want to have your database closer to that location, but maybe your front end, the web application, some of the storage for different reasons, you might want to have it in the public cloud, and they are all interconnected. So basically, you are not, the confinement of the location doesn't become what determines where you will be running the application. Regarding hybrid IT, I'm suspecting that you have some people that is full-time employee and resides locally where the customers are, and then you will have some, I don't know, people that access remotely. I don't know in what context hybrid IT will be.
Okay, thank you, Gaston.
Yeah, completely that vision.
I have a question, if you don't mind. So we were talking around cloud cost and how it keeps increasing and all those things, which I totally agree on. Have you looked at on-prem, maybe cloud as a as a service, or hybrid cloud, bringing cloud to on-prem? Have you looked at that as a option because of cost and how in terms of TCO and it's pretty affordable compared to being on private cloud? Have you looked at that as an option?
Yeah, so the main cloud providers, they try to expand the capabilities and elasticity from the cloud to on-prem. For example, you have Arc from Azure point of view, which centralize, your more traditional view to manage, let's say on-prem, private, and public. GCP has Anthos, right, which is very similar. So definitely an approach when you need to coexist. And I think that most of the organizations will use hybrid cloud. It's impossible to move from 0 to 100 into a public cloud, maybe utopic to a certain point. And I think that this kind of like a hybrid expansion of the public cloud into on-prem might be a good opportunity. My company in particular, we are doing that, in particular for the platforms that the different applications need to consume. So yes, so a lot of abstraction to the operational teams. You still need to buy hardware, but a lot of the management and a lot of the platform is managed and even consumed as if it was part of the public cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Another point
that's a very important point. Thank you.
Sorry, another point in order to about hybrid IT and hybrid cloud. So as Gaston mentioned, so especially AWS and Oracle is trying to sell the clients appliance that you may deploy on your data center just to bring some of the advantages of the product or services you may have on the public cloud on your private data center. And the reason, there are technical reasons, as I mentioned before, about latency and so on. But one special topic, and depending on the industry, it's about legislation and regulation about where the data is. Mm-hmm. So in some, especially in the financial sector, and depending on the country, you couldn't have your data outside the company or either outside the country. So the hybrid cloud or just the private cloud is the only option you may have in order to gather some of the advantages of the public cloud.
Yeah. and on that kind of note there, I see those are some of the challenges that come with the cloud as well. And we talked a lot about the opportunities, and now we are at the top of our 3 minutes to go. So just wanted to summarize on that high note with Sam, when he introduced the concept of FinOps. I think it really resonates at both at the management layer, as well as people who are actually part of the teams that are managing these applications, because you've seen the evolution of the way applications are built and delivered and deployed has changed from a very sort of sequential waterfall model to agile, to a DevOps way, where actually people have moved from delivering features to actually teams to delivering features to now actually learning from operation. Operation becomes input for development and design and drives business value. So I think that's an interesting thing, and that's where DASA is focused on, and try to help teams and organizations evolve towards that sort of maturity, both as they mature on the cloud side of the technology side, the people side, and getting from autonomous teams that are delivering code to autonomous teams that are delivering against a business case. And FinOps and things like that play a big role, because they not only give you the business data, the cost data, but they also give teams a perspective of the business value. So I think, Sam, thanks for introducing that concept, and it just reflective of the popularity of DevOps. That acronym continues to constantly expand with DevSecOps and BizDevOps. So I think I thank you for a very sort of lively discussion, and for the different perspectives you brought to the table. Katrina, Helen, anything you want to say before we close it?
Yeah, thank you very much, all of you, for your time this afternoon. And I mean, cloud is such a big topic, so but obviously that's only part of it we can talk about. But thank you, all of you, for joining, and Sam also for entering after the Tel Aviv traffic. It's not an easy one, that one.
Not ideal.
Not it was worth it though, Sam. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you, and thank you, Irfan, for hosting on behalf of DASA. So we look forward to hosting more enterprise leadership forums. And as I mentioned earlier, please do contribute to any topics that you want to learn about in this forum. We want to grow this forum amongst leaders, and also invite your friends of, senior IT leaders, or, DevOps practitioners, mainly leaders, not DevOps practitioners, leaders in this forum. Our next event is happening quite soon, which is actually the DASA DevOps Awards, which aims to encourage future generations of DevOps professionals by highlighting and celebrating DevOps successes. And that will be on Wednesday, the 20th of April at 4 p.m. online. We would love to see you there. So please go to our website, www.devops.org. DASADevOps.org, and we will share the details on there. And we will have another ELF happening on the 2nd of June, which will be hosted by John Rupel, who is another DASA ambassador, and it will be on improving the time to market of digital products and services. And and then 29th of June, we will confirm a topic, hopefully either contributed by the audience or by our DASA people. So please do join us for our up and coming events, and you'll find more information on our website. And going to the next slide, please, Coco. And for more information, as I mentioned earlier, please, on membership, which Helen talked a little bit about our community earlier, you can contact her on helen.parker@devopsagileskills.org, on our website also, devopsagileskills.org. So thank you, everyone, for your time today. And thank you, everybody, for participating. And look forward to seeing you again.